where I find out I'm going I'm going to do costumes for Annie Get Your Gun. That
Okay.
was the blast.
All right.
Anytime, I'm rolling.
Doing 80 people.
And that's why I don't know if you can catch a picture, but I have pictures of the size cast.
We'll just put them in.
We'll put those in
I
later.
can insert them in.
Great.
Okay.
Oh, super, super, super,
You
super.
can
Okay.
have them there just for reference. if
You were
want.
actually at the first meeting, weren't you, that John Campbell called?
I was not at his house. I was the one at the school.
Yeah, I was never at one at the house. I'm sure he had some at his house, but the first
He had
public-
one.
He, had
He just
public
had
meeting.
one. But then the rest of the time we were out at Southwest.
Yeah.
And I was out at Southwest and we signed up if we want what we wanted to do. And I put down costuming and I think Deanie did. I don't know why. Anyway, John said, Deanie, you can do this. Well, after 2 weeks of finding out that there were 80 people, no, it grew. I don't think there were 80 people to begin with. It definitely grew. And then it scared the heck out of her. And she called me one day and said, you can do this because I'm not doing it. And I said, oh, okay. I had a ball. I found out right away that's what I really wanted to do for fun.
Okay. There were so many people in that cast, like 80 people.
80. 80.
And they wore ball gowns. Now, you didn't sew all the ball gowns yourself, did you? Did you have any help?
Do you know what?
Did any of them make their own?
No. No. I did them. And the first time I did them, I overdid them. And I took them home and stripped them because what's her name told me they looked like whores on their lunch hour. And I took
That
them.
was Vonda.
Yeah.
Vonda Rockwell
Yes.
said that too.
Yeah. And so I took them home, and that night that was dress rehearsal. And I thought, a little bit, a whole lot was a whole lot better. And I found out right away, it wasn't.
Joan, you were a mother of 4 children, and that you were doing this volunteer work that was high pressure and this deadline. How did you do it?
Well, Blake and Jane were also in that play.
Okay.
And the twins were old enough to stay home by themselves. And they had a lot of studies to do. They weren't as quick as Jane and Blake, and it took them a while. So.
But nevertheless, the sewing, the laying out the fabric.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people in that first play did their own things. Like Harvey Botten had his own tux.
Okay.
A lot of the cowboys had their own boots and shirts. We didn't have to supply very many. I can't even remember me having an amount I could spend.
That's just it. We had no money,
No.
no inventory.
No, but I did buy fabric, so they did pay me back for the fabric for the ball gowns. That took me a while. And I believe that, oh God, she lives on the corner of she's doing a lot of volunteer work at the hospital right now. She lives on the corner of Cedar and in the old Presbyterian.
Ruth Vermedal.
Yes.
Yes.
Did some.
Okay.
And anytime I really got in a crunch, she would help. And I believe she did some. Okay. Other than that, I cannot remember anybody doing them. Okay.
Okay. Another thing I wanted to ask you is you were involved in the theater for years and years and years.
Yeah.
What drew you to the theater? Was it just making costumes, or were there other pluses and perks?
There's a lot of interesting people.
Okay.
A lot of people who had some ideas that were a little different than your common, ordinary people where I lived. Okay. And it wasn't until I went back to school and finished up my degree that I got in with some art people and got in where some people thought. Okay. And Rosalie, we've always had very interesting people in ACT. Some were a little weird, but, most of them were right on the money. And you can't act unless you've got to have everything together before you can act. I found that out. I'm not a good actress. John Campbell found that out too. He gave me a solo to do in South Pacific, and I fell flat on my face, and he gave it to somebody else, and he never gave me anything else. So I knew I was not a good actress, It didn't take me long to find that out. But I had a ball. I had so much fun doing this, and it kept me happy raising 4 children by myself. Okay?
Yeah.
And Jack got involved in the theater, so he never said a thing about my work. And so
that is a big key, is the family involvement. If both, if everyone in the family enjoys it, then it's a thing you do together.
Yeah. I think Jane was in another production. I don't think Blake was. I'll have to ask him. I wish I could remember. Everything from, unless it's just squished in my head, everything, from 3 years before is gone, with that heart attack.
Well, when I talked to Earl Jacobson about our doing these interviews, and it was over a year ago, and he said, "You better hurry up." He did. He said, "You better hurry up."
Judge Sturt says I better stick around for the 50th now. So
Bill's head is great. It's just his body that's gone.
He ran into Bill downstairs and did an interview with him.
Yeah.
That we
He
weren't
was
even
talking
behind.
about conflict, how people go face to face, but it helped improve everything.
You mean
Yeah.
on stage or off
On
stage?
stage, off stage.
Yeah,
Is that the way it works?
yeah. He will not allow anybody to help him.
Oh, today.
Yeah, he won't let anybody open the door for him or anything. And I think, well, he's doing quite well, with all this. No, I figure, are you still taping?
Yeah.
Okay. I figured I did costume for 42 years, and it went from Annie Get Your Gun, having been able to accomplish that and get it together. And a lot of people dressed down in the gym and were called up to the stage when they were on, and a lot of the teenagers were down there, and the men. And
This was at Southwest Junior High.
yeah, at Southwest Junior High, because that stage was not very big. And I understand we are doing Haunting of Hill House, which I did the set for, and John Campbell told me how to do it. And I thought, nah, I'm not going to do it like that. I've got a better idea. Oh, dear God.
Did you have to do it over?
No, the doors wouldn't open.
Oh.
And that was where it was supposed to be creaky, and it was bad. Several nights they had to go up and manually open the doors and all this kind of thing. I learned very quickly that John Campbell knew what he was talking about. And he never did come up and say, "Okay, Joan, I told you," but I did learn a lesson. But I also designed some sets back then, and I love doing that.
Well, you were an interior decorator at that time, as I recall.
Yeah, well,
Well,
yeah.
You worked at a store as an interior decorator for a while.
Yeah, I worked at Moore's Furniture,
Uh-huh.
and I worked on my own, and I found out you could not make a whole lot of money. I found out you could not make a whole lot of money sewing for people, 50 cents an hour, that's nothing. And so I just did what I wanted to do. And it wasn't until, let me see, early 80s that into the 70s that I got my degree and I started teaching.
And she was one of the Lee College graduates.
Yeah. And then I had to go back, and I had a hard time getting certified because Lee College was not certified because they did not have a wealthy library. And that's why they got knocked in the head and moved out of here. But Mankato State did not want them around. They did not want them certifying teachers, and they really pushed the state to close us down. And it was a good small school. In fact, I think I had a couple of teachers that were a whole lot harder than what I ever saw at Mankato. I had to go back and take 3 classes over. And
Getting back to
Yeah.
the theater, is there anything?
The cord bothers me.
Which one? This one?
Reach to the left and pull. That one.
I came off.
Yeah, no, it's just bunching up.
Where?
Very good. We're good. We're good.
Okay.
Rosalie's
Okay.
Okay.
Sit back.
Then
Okay.
go back. Then it stays. All right.
All right, going back to the theater. All right. So the only time that I did not do costumes for 42 years was when I did my master's, and yeah. What's her name took over, and they don't live here anymore. They only lived here a short time.
Okay. I don't remember.
Oh crap.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. Anyway, she and her husband did costumes. And another time, I met a young woman who moved here who had taken costuming at college. And she took me up to the cities and showed me some places where you could buy fabric, 3 yards for $1 and so forth. And she also showed me how to lay out a skirt that was good for about 1850s, you know, and we made 5 suits for that time period. And this woman was a little different, but I'll tell you what, she really knew what she was doing, and I learned a lot from her, especially how to just cut.
Yeah.
And most of the time, if you found one pattern, you could use it over and over and over and cut your own stuff, cut your own patterns. So that's what we did most of the time.
Okay. And those costumes are still there today.
Yeah, except for a couple. We made a fat lady's dress at that time and a wool suit at that time in a larger size, and those are both gone. Somebody went off with them. And it really kind of made me mad because we could have used them. And yeah, they are still there.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your.
Stop you for a second. That microphone is up
Oh.
against your skin.
Oh, you.
And
Okay.
so we're getting about half of it, and it's half muted a little bit. So we're just going to do this. That's all right. You won't wear the sweater again. There we
Okay.
go.
All right.
Okay.
Am I losing it?
No, you're good. You're good.
Are you still taping now?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about your memories of John Campbell, because he attracted so many people.
Oh, yes,
including
he
busy
did.
People, physicians at the hospital. What was his gift?
He could talk anybody into doing anything. And he somehow or another would pull people in from the hospital saying, I've got a part for you, and put them in it. And they excelled in it.
But he was a stickler for rehearsals. I mean, you
Oh.
did not miss.
The only reason you missed one, it was because there was a death in your family and it was you.
That's right.
That was his saying.
That was right.
And he was an addict about it. You did not miss rehearsal. So if you were in a play, you were tied up for a good 6 weeks, every single night. And sometimes more if the play went on and you were still there.
About the metamorphosis from the little theater to the theater uptown. How did that
There's
happen?
not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot there.
No. There's not a whole lot of difference. A little more polished.
Well, think about we didn't have dressing rooms and makeup rooms
And we
a
did
place to
no,
build a
we
set.
didn't. And we didn't have, somehow or another, I used to do makeup and hair, and simply because I could. And finally, we finally got a professional to come in and do it after we were up in this theater. And Rory took over make-upping women, and we taught people how to do their own. So it became fairly easy for people.
But the room, I mean, they just.
I can remember Jeannie trying to help Sue, and Sue getting so mad that Sue threw a pair of scissors at her. Can we put that on?
That's good stuff, but she'll want to clip it,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
There are so many stories. There are so many stories about, 50 years. So many stories.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. That one's not particularly nice. Oh, she was mad. Yeah. Sue had a vile temper back then. She doesn't anymore, but back then she
That
did.
gets back to that caring about your craft so well that you'll let your emotions run to the top.
I think it's more about you meet all kinds of people, and most people had an ego. Let's face it.
Oh, yes, they did.
People
The
had an
actors.
yeah.
Honey, the actors did. If you were a good actor or actress, you had an ego, because all of a sudden you were on stage, you were great, and people were clapping, for what you did. I never got called out on stage and said, "Yay, costumes."
That's right.
Bill and I were talking the other night, and I said, "When did you ever get called out on stage and say, 'Oh God, your set was so good, it was just magnificent'?" And he said, "Never." And I said, "Well, I never got called out on costumes either." So I know when I did something really good, Ann Earhart would tell me how good I was. And other than that, that's about the only time anybody ever said anything. When I did the king's costume and so forth for Henry VIII, I worked really hard on it, and made sure there were pictures of it in the newspaper, and that was gratifying. But not too often did that happen. You just had the gratification of knowing that you had done a good job. And another time, when I did Into the Woods, which was about maybe 12 years ago, but one of the last things I did, Ann told me, "That was probably one of the best things you've done." And that was gratifying. And we had a boy playing the huntsman, and he was so big that I made him lay down on brown paper, and I drew around him, and then I took that and cut him a jacket, and that jacket's supposed to still be up there. And it really, little things like that you do out of desperation, There was no way I could fit him in anything,
Did you have a thread and needle on standby during performances?
Did I have a what?
Thread and needle, just ready to go if you needed to?
Yep. We always had somebody downstairs that could fix something. Yeah, maybe it wasn't me, but it was someone,
Didn't happen, though.
I didn't. I'm not being.
Oh, no.
I'm not being taped, but I never do that.
Is that you? No, that's me.
That's you.
I don't know what that is. Is it a doorbell?
Is that my door?
I think so. We'll let him ring again. I have one more question for you.
Okay.
And then I thought just something fun to do would be say,
Okay.
just say 50 in your best dramatic voice.
What?
50.
For 50 years.
Yeah. Look, get a pen in the camera and give me a smile and say 50.
Okay, 50.
A little quiet beforehand. Do it again.
Okay, 50.
Okay. She is a hard actress.
Do it again.
But don't say okay, 50. Just look in there.
Okay. 50.
No, don't look at me for reaction. One more time.
50.
There we go. You still came to me. What is ACT Theater? If you could define this theater company in
A wonderful group of people. Having fun.
People you know?
Some of them I don't know anymore.
So, back to you. Anything you want to finish
Anything
with?
you want to ask her?
I always say, or this is a Carla Johnson thing, you did a wonderful interview, but is there something you wanted to tell us that we didn't ask you?
You know, one of the things when we did other people's money, we had a man who we had to dress, and we could not dress. He had to wear a very expensive suit the whole time, and we had to buy 3 suits for that man, and they're still up there. But he was kind of chunky, and I think they're like about a 44 or 46 large. And if we ever find somebody else that big, you know, we ought to be able to fit them. We have weird things hanging up in there that we have fit people with because we've had to buy them, you know, and sometimes people want to know where Act money goes. Well, it went for 3 suits because he had to look very, very professional. And he did not, I think he was from Hayward or someplace around here. He did not have any money. You know, so,
Well,
and he certainly didn't have any suits.
very good. That's off button. We're good.
Okay.
We're going to be done.
Think of the small
But Joan,
state.
you also were in the play.
Yeah,
you were an
oh
Indian
yeah,
then.
I was an Indian.
I don't understand how you did all that work and then you were in the play. Well, maybe you didn't have a lot of lines to memorize.
No, no, honey, I had more energy back then than 5 people.
You must have.
I don't have it anymore.
Well, of course.
That was one of the things that went with the heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
But I really did, I used to have an abundance of energy.
Now, John Campbell directed that play,
Oh yeah.
but here he is dancing in it. So
Oh,
he
yeah.
also was one of the dancers
Oh
in
yeah.
the waltz.
Oh
scene.
yeah.
That was probably his only part.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, yeah. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. And you know that Bev Nolander passed away this year finally.
Did she?
But she was in an Alzheimer's unit in, I don't know, Texas or
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah.
Because her son was up here, Kirk Foley, and he
Yeah.
told us about that.
Yeah.
Do not be taping this. This is